These professionals knew anatomy well enough to maximize pain without causing death. They knew psychology well enough to break resistance efficiently. They moved between elite households, sharing techniques, comparing methods, refining their art. A case from Nero's reign concerned a senator's wife who had killed a slave girl through prolonged punishment. The legal question was not whether she had the right to kill the slave, which she did, but whether her methods had violated public decency by occurring over multiple days with specific techniques the court declined to describe explicitly. She was acquitted. Her methods remained legal. But the case record suggests practices extending far beyond ordinary discipline. The private punishment facilities in elite villas have been identified archaeologically. Rooms with specific features, hooks in walls at particular heights, drains positioned for cleaning, soundproofing construction all indicate purposes that architecture reveals even when written records don't. A villa discovered at Oplontis, buried by Vesuvius in 79 AD. Revealed architecture designed for purposes beyond simple residence, hidden rooms accessible through concealed passages, bathing facilities with unusual arrangements, wall paintings depicting scenes archaeologists initially declined to publish. The villa's owner was connected to the imperial family. What makes these practices particularly disturbing is their combination with public virtue. The same senators who tortured slaves at home voted on laws governing public morality. The same matrons who supervised agonies in their households were celebrated for domestic virtue. The dissonance wasn't experienced as contradiction because slaves weren't considered fully human. What was done to them didn't count as doing anything to anyone. But elite Romans didn't restrict their transgressive activities to those they owned. Elite Roman women found gladiators fascinating. And this fascination is documented extensively in sources ranging from poetry to graffiti to legal records. The fascination went far beyond appreciation of athletic prowess. It was physical, intimate, and acted upon. A wife of Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, was rumored to have taken a gladiator as lover. The rumor held that the future emperor Commodus was actually the gladiator's son, which supposedly explained Commodus's later obsession with fighting in the arena himself. Whether the rumor was true matters less than the fact it was widely believed. Elite women taking gladiator lovers was plausible enough that Romans accepted the story. Juvenal dedicated an entire section of his satires to matrons who abandoned their families to follow gladiators. He names specific women, describes specific affairs, and condemns the willing degradation of elite status for physical involvement with slaves. His condemnation reveals what was being condemned, a pattern of behavior widespread enough to warrant extended satirical treatment. Graffiti preserved at Pompeii includes what can only be called fan messages for gladiators, expressing interest in explicitly physical terms. Some of this graffiti was clearly written by women. The gladiator named Celadus is described as making girls sigh, heartthrob of the girls, and similar phrases indicating female enthusiasm extending beyond admiration of fighting skill. The arrangement of gladiator encounters required discretion but not impossibility. Elite women had mobility. They controlled household resources. They could arrange absences and create opportunities. Gladiators, despite their low status, had access to women that men of higher status might envy. The paradox was understood and exploited. The children born from these unions faced particular complications. A child of an elite woman was legally her husband's, regardless of actual paternity. A man might find himself raising children who obviously didn't resemble him. unable to acknowledge the truth without publicly shaming himself. This brings us to the final secret, the one that encompasses all others. The Roman elite tried to destroy evidence of their own conduct. This is the secret that explains why so much has been lost and why what survives appears in fragments rather than complete accounts. The destruction was systematic and deliberate. Private letters were burned by recipients who understood their incriminating potential. Household records were purged when families faced political difficulties. Slaves who knew too much were sold to distant provinces or simply disappeared. The infrastructure of secrecy extended to the destruction of evidence that secrecy might fail to protect. When Christianity became Rome's official religion in the 4th century, the new authorities conducted additional destruction. Texts that revealed pagan elite conduct were targeted as both immoral and irreligious. The combination of moral outrage and theological mandate produced comprehensive purges of written material that had survived centuries of previous erasure. What survives does so accidentally. The texts Vesuvius buried at Pompeii and Herculaneum escaped the purges that destroyed their copies elsewhere. The graffiti on walls was too trivial to warrant destruction and too permanent to remove easily. The archaeology of destruction itself tells stories. Villa sites where specific rooms were dismantled before abandonment. Archives where burn layers indicate deliberate destruction rather than accidental fire. Tombs whose original inscriptions were erased and replaced. The physical evidence of erasure reveals how important concealment was to those who practiced it. The destruction continued after antiquity. Medieval monks who copied classical texts sometimes declined to copy sections they deemed too offensive. Renaissance scholars who rediscovered classical material sometimes suppressed what they found, judging certain texts too dangerous for circulation. What we know about Roman elite conduct comes from material that escaped multiple generations of deliberate destruction. The survivors are fragments, hints, implications requiring scholarly reconstruction to become coherent narratives. The full picture is permanently lost. This erasure itself constitutes evidence. The systematic effort to destroy records of elite conduct proves there was something worth destroying. The comprehensiveness of the destruction proves the conduct was not isolated incidents, but pervasive patterns. Remember the slave Demetrius, whose minor accident nearly cost his life. Remember that the guest who saved him did so despite social pressure, despite the cost to himself, despite a system that told him his intervention was wrong. The guest's name wasn't recorded. His identity wasn't preserved, but his action was. Someone thought it worth remembering that once someone said no. That no matters. It matters because it proves that even within systems of comprehensive exploitation, individuals could choose differently. The Roman elite are gone. Their villas have crumbled. Their names are remembered primarily by historians. But what they showed about human nature remains relevant. The capacity for cruelty when power permits it. The hypocrisy of public virtue masking private vice. The systematic erasure of inconvenient truth. These aren't Roman characteristics. They're human characteristics that Roman evidence illuminates with particular clarity. The fragments that survive Roman erasure speak across 2,000 years, warning us what power without accountability becomes. If you want more historical reality that destroys comfortable myths about the past, subscribe to Flow of History. We're just getting started revealing what actually happened behind the legends.